All right, it is not every day that you get to chop it up with a pair of Oregon Duck legends, so I'm feeling very lucky on this Thursday. Jay Stu is with me as always, but we're thrilled to bring in Joey Heisman, Captain Comeback, Joey Harrington, back onto the show. Joey, how you doing, man?
Wow, much better after that intro. Those are a few
Joey
things.
Heisman.
Man,
Joey
I haven't
Heisman.
heard that in 20 years. Mostly it's like, Dad, where's my toast? So it's my recent monikers have been like Uber soccer driver and
Oh,
yeah, neighborhood taxi.
you got that
Okay.
5-star rating, do you?
Yeah, I'd go 4.25 probably.
Okay.
Are you a
There's issues.
stickler? Are you a stickler on having a clean car with kids?
Um, no ish.
Because I'm going
I'm
through this phase right now with my daughter where I dropped her off for school the other day. I went through a whole day with not knowing that she left a bagel,
Okay,
full
so
on
how
bagel.
old is your daughter? That's the
She's
question.
7. She's
Okay.
7. She
So
left a
7 is different than 14, right?
yeah.
A 7-year-old can forget that they left a bagel or not have it be front of mind.
Yeah.
A 14, 15-year-old, it's like pick up your bagel. Like
Yeah.
there's a difference. So you've got a few more years until there's that responsibility that you look back and it's like granola bar wrappers and some of those applesauce squeezies. Like you got a few years of that.
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with the 2-year-old where it's just you've come to accept that there is going to be a mess no matter where she goes, and there's just no planning for it or no
Oh,
stopping it.
you won't have a clean shirt for another 3 or 4 years.
That's fine. I'm used to it.
Yeah.
I
It's
just
just kind of yeah. You're gonna
yeah.
show up places with like at first it was like spit up, and then it's like like muddy hands, and then it's like drool, and like all you just got all sorts of stuff going.
Yeah. At this point I've come to accept it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh
Wear it like a badge of honor.
Joey, your entire life this time of year, this start, like you can feel the change in the air. You feel that football is just kind of in the air. Your entire life has kind of revolved around this time. Just Stu and I talked about this last week, but what is that sense like for you when you get to the end of August? You feel that
Dread.
chill in the air a little bit. Is it dread? Is it
Dread.
not excitement? What's it
Absolute.
like?
No. No, 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 no. It is complete and total like PTSD dread. Like, and I
Ooh,
and I know, Jay Stu, you got to have this feeling too, where it's like, and it's not so. Okay, okay, let me check. Let me check this. End of August is different than end of July, right?
okay.
End of
Mhm.
July was like, oh, it's hot, and it's like you get, you're out there playing, and you somehow you end up down face first in the grass, and it's like you smell the grass, and like immediately are rocketed back to like stretching lines and daily doubles, and that moment is like, oh, summer's over, like I got to go back, and I'm going to get absolutely murdered for the next 3 weeks. That part is dread. This part of the end of August is excitement, right? Because by the time we get here, you're through fall camp or you're
Mhm.
through preseason in the NFL, and this part is excitement. But yeah, so I'll quantify that as two different feelings. Last month at this time, it was dread. This month, it's excitement.
I like
Yeah,
that.
totally agree. But right now, if you're a player, you're thinking to yourself, "Ooh, I made it. All I gotta do now is just make it another week,
Uh-huh.
stay healthy, hydrate, make the team, make the roster, prove my point that I should be playing, and it's smooth sailing." But to that
Okay.
point, end of June, is like, "Ah, man, that happened really quick. I gotta
Oh,
start working out. I gotta go outside and sweat." Good thing that I lived in North Carolina because it was easy to go outside and sweat and feel miserable.
July was the worst. July was the worst because it's like that like you had this window of fun that it's like, oh man, I can kind of take a break for a minute, and then it's over. And not only is it over, but it is like I'm gonna kick you in the face for the next month over.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a ton to cover on the gridiron. Before we get to that, I think the three of us would not be true to ourselves if we didn't at least mention our true passion of golf. Jay Stu, I know you had a
How did I not
question.
know? How did I not know that you're
I
a
know,
golfer?
right?
Like
This
that's
is
no, that's
incredible.
on you, Zach. That's on you
Why
for
is
not
this on
sharing
me?
that you because he's your partner, right? He's your
Okay,
guy.
so
He's like your podcast. Like it's like that.
Yeah, you
well,
should have
Joey,
told him, Zach. I
Joey, it's
blame
really
you.
on you because if
It's
you listen to a single one of our episodes when you're not on, you would know that he's a golfer because we
this
talk
is
about it
this is
every
definitely
episode.
on you, Joey Heisman.
Okay, that's a good point. But to be fair, I don't listen to any podcasts. I don't listen to
That's
any
okay.
sports podcast. You know,
Okay,
like I
that's
said,
fine.
Yeah.
I'm a taxi driver between soccer practices.
That's fine.
Well,
Well, anyway, Jay Stu, I know you had a question for him about golf.
well, yeah. We texted yesterday, and I basically I'm inviting myself to the Safeway Foundation Battle of the Dunes for the 13th one. I'll skip the 12th because I know that there's probably already some plans made, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Well,
pun intended.
I'm gonna start by saying you can go to the Battle of the Dunes, but I'm not sure who's gonna be there. You may be by yourself because it's a
What
Safeway
is it?
Foundation Battle at Bandon. So
Bandon.
you can go to the Dunes.
Yeah.
Man, you know, it's so funny. Like I'm so lucky that this event has taken off the way that it has. We're admittedly in a little bit of transition. Like, where are we with sponsors? Where are we with the conference? Where are we like, whereas 12 years ago, the Pac-12 wanted nothing to do with us. Now we're moving to the Big Ten, and it's like, well, there's some interest there. So I don't know if it's going to stick with the old Pac-12 schools. I don't know if we're bringing in like Michigan and Ohio State. I have no idea. But I do know that you're going to have to fight Justin Herbert for that other Oregon spot. So I'm looking forward to seeing a full-on like smoker style amateur boxing match. Winner
Yeah.
takes the spot for the 13th annual Battle of Bandon.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I'm actually starting a golf channel called Tea Time Stew. That's how much of a golfer that
We've
I've
got a
become,
golf
Joey
channel show
Harrington.
for Jay Stu.
And
A golf
so,
channel?
yeah, YouTube. So basically, and I'll have you on there. What's your handicap?
I am currently a 2.9 index.
He's better than I am.
That's really good. My goal is to get in single digits.
Okay.
I'm working vigorously. But what is Justin Herbert's handicap?
He's probably, I would
I think
guess, like an
he's
8 or
up
so.
to he's up to he was at like a 4 and now he's like a 7.
Okay, perfect. So by next year,
Okay.
I will have a duel with him for the
Ooh,
spot.
like a playoff, like a
Playoff.
18-hole playoff for the spot.
I'll earn it.
All right,
Let's
I like
put it that way. I don't want to
I
just
like
take it. I don't want to, twist your guys' arms. I'll just go up there and just earn it. If I lose, then I don't come invited, but I might come uninvited.
But you might come uninvited. How about we just and this is what I've been toying with. We could just expand to 4 players per school, right?
I love that idea.
That's the way, because honestly, like the event, it's this push pull for me because some schools are notoriously hard for me to get guys to come to. Like I've literally gone through about 25 guys for Arizona, and none of the basketball guys want to play golf, or it's schedule doesn't work. But then I get you get somebody to come and like they don't ever want to leave. Like it's such a unique, different event that takes place at literally like the greatest golf resort in the world. Mm-hmm. And with this group of guys that has become like a family over the last decade. So yeah, like some schools I can't get anybody to show up, and other schools like I'm beating people off with a stick. Like, and guys will text me in like November saying, "All right, I got my flight booked." Like, I send the invite out to Ryan Leaf, and he's like, he will literally, the last couple of years, if I invite him at like 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, by noon, he has texted me back his itinerary for the flight that he has booked. He's like, all right, I'm set. I'm right. Don't worry about me. Like, he knows, like, I have like so much drama to deal with. Some guys were flying across the country and, oh, my flight got canceled, or I can't make it, or what should I wear? Or I don't know if I want to do this. Like, he just sends it to me. He's like, I'm going to be there. Don't worry about me. Like, the less drama I can cause, I know it's better for my invite next year. I was like, all right.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for obviously putting on such an amazing event. Thanks for sharing that it's Bandon Dunes, not the
Bandon
Dunes.
Dunes. The Dunes.
Yeah, that's great. All right, let's talk some football. Before we dive into the
Why?
Ducks, I know,
Why? We don't
right?
need to talk
Golf
about
is much
football.
better, but
I
You're
know.
before
supposed to
we
be excited, Joey. It's the end of August.
All right.
That's
Okay, you're
true.
right. It's
Get
we've
We're
with
gotten
it.
by the
excited.
we've gotten by dread. We're into excitement now. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Before we talk about the Ducks and their 2024 season, I want to touch on kind of a more newsworthy topic. I want to talk to you about Bo Nix.
Yep.
He has been incredible in his first two
Yep.
preseason games with the Broncos. He was officially named the starter this past week from Sean Payton. What have you seen from him in those two games that has impressed you the most from the quarterback mind?
Nothing surprising. I mean,
Okay.
it was literally the perfect marriage between quarterback and coach. I played with Sean, or I played for Sean, '08, my last '08, '09, right before they won the Super Bowl. And Bo is exactly what Sean wants in a quarterback. He is a grinder. I mean, he's literally just like a gym rat. He's a football junkie. You know that story about the backpack. Like, what's in your backpack? Well, a squeeze ball and a playbook, and like that's literally like what Sean loved about Drew, and why the two of them were like this. And I got to sit back and watch that relationship between Sean and Drew and how they worked so well together. Bo is a more athletic, stronger armed version of Drew Brees. Now we'll see if he has the endurance, the work, and not that I would ever doubt this, because from what I've seen he does have it, but it's that work ethic that made Drew so good. It's that work ethic that made Sean and Drew. Um, I mean, it was like this symbiotic relationship. Like they were attached at the hip, and that is exactly what Bo can be. So everything that he's done has been perfectly on brand for what I think we all saw from him at Oregon, and how it would translate to the NFL with Sean. And let's also not forget, like Bo is like 36, and so like he's got a lot more experience. Seeing the ups and the downs of the situations, and honestly, like Stu, like the NFL is not smooth sailing. The NFL
Hmm.
isn't just like walking in and it's like, cool, just riding the road like we always did. The NFL is like, one week you're on top of the world, and the next week somebody is literally kicking you in the crotch and dragging you by the teeth over hot coals, and you're expected to get up the next week and do it and be how you were the previous week, right?
Yeah.
Bo's experience at Auburn and literally being like run out of town and still keeping confidence in himself and understanding, not only am I a good player, but I can continue to get better, which he did. Like, that is such a huge part of being a successful NFL quarterback, is understanding that I have the talent to be here, and I'm going to get kicked in the teeth, and I need to continue to work to get better. Like, that is everything that Bo has already.
So I was gonna ask you, like, with your experience going from college to the pros, like, what challenges, if any, would Bo experience? And it sounds like he the mental capacity of staying with the grind as a quarterback, as a leader, your off the field issues, like being able to compartmentalize all those types of things. Are there any other things that you experienced, you know, going into the league as a kid from college that you saw yourself, struggling with, day
Yeah, no,
one?
yeah. My biggest issue in the NFL was this belief, or this story or narrative that I had in my own head, right? Because my whole career up to that point had been, you work, you work, you work, it works out. You work, you work, you work, it works out. You work, you work, you work. Oh, this one didn't work out. Oh, well, let's work a little bit harder and have a team meeting and, all come together, and then it works out again, right? At no point had I ever experienced guys in the locker room or people in the media or you know, people that got my cell phone, like at no point up to the NFL had I experienced that type of adversity, like where people doubted you or openly criticized you or left you death threats on your voice. Oh no, I did get a couple death threats in college, but that was email. That was different. We'll go back. That's
What
another
was the email?
topic. Oh, it was like typed out in the CC, like Central Catholic, and in each of those like C's it was like, you will die, you will die, you will die, like
Wow.
in the shape of the C and the C. And then below it was like, if you ever play like that again, I will come and kill you. I know where you live. I know who your high school
my
English teacher
God.
was. Like, oh yeah, no, that
People need to
was,
relax, man.
Fun stuff. Yeah.
oh yeah. But my point being, like, my issue was that created self-doubt, right? That created that moment of second guessing, like, well, maybe I'm not doing things right, or maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I should have, or I could have. And the moment that you think in the NFL is the moment you're
Yeah.
dead, because
Yeah.
the moment you think is, because thinking takes an extra half a second, and if you're a half second late, you're wrong. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so now not only have I thought about what I did wrong and was then a half second late, but because I was a half second late, I compounded that mistake that I made earlier, which then sends you back into the cycle of like doubting what you did in the first place. Right. So
Yeah.
Bo's been through that. Bo's taken tough coaching. Bo's taken criticism. Bo's worked his way up from the bottom up to the top again. And so his issues to me will be physical. All right. He throws an incredible deep ball. Bo needed to work on his mid-range accuracy. He does. If you're gonna be a long-term successful NFL quarterback, you have to be able to put the ball with pressure in your face across the middle on a 15-yard dig, not here, but here,
Yeah.
right? Because this ball's knocked down, that ball's intercepted, that ball's a first down. Like, that's the difference between success and failure at the quarterback position in the NFL. And so Bo's issues to me, like, what will keep him from being an elite quarterback is that if he can progress physically in those areas, he's going to be just fine.
I know it's a really small sample size. Obviously, we've seen 6 total drives from him in the preseason. Were there things that you saw from him that you noticed that he had that he did not have while at Oregon? I know it's a very small window you're looking at, but were
Yeah,
there any things that kind of stood out to you?
not offhand. Again, like you said, it's a small sample size. I need to see a full season, and frankly, more than just a full season, because he's going to make a lot of mistakes this season,
Mhm.
right? And so, how does he adjust from those mistakes? Not just in game, but coming into next year, right?
Mhm.
Does his mid-range accuracy improve from this year to next year? Does he, we saw him as a junior. He took off and ran like crazy. You want to count the number of times he left the pocket as a senior?
Yeah.
You
Not
could do it
many.
on one hand. You could do it on one hand, right? And so there was a conscious effort of like working on his passing, working on making those throws from the pocket. There's going to have to be like a marriage of those 2 seasons in the NFL, like, because it's not always going to be clean and it's not always going to be pretty. And he has the physical tools to escape. So like, I have to see like that larger sample size, not just from last year to this year, but can you learn and grow from the mistakes you make from this year to next year? Because that's when you're truly going to become an elite quarterback.
Mm-hmm. So the year that you were up for the Heisman and all the marketing and all the, I mean, just looking back in time, it was different in how Oregon, put you out there in New York
You
in
think?
Times Square. And it was it was aggressive, but in a sense, like in terms of college and just the time of media, you know, Oregon was trend setting. They were setting a trend, and that's basically what we've always been known for is trailblazing and setting trends and being on top of whatever's next, right? The similarities of what's happening now as we enter the Big Ten. Can you give me kind of like your feelings during your Heisman race
Hmm.
and just seeing yourself and seeing Oregon, on this national scale. You grew up in Oregon. Like, how proud did you feel, and what similarities of feelings are you, tapping in right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point and a good analysis that I hadn't really thought of. Like when they, when we changed uniforms, to
Hmm.
the, and granted, we only had two, we had a home and an away, but still, it was a different, it was outside the box. And then comes the, and then comes the billboard, like the in your face. It reminds me of like, what Tinker always said is like, when everybody zigs, you zag,
Zach.
right? And then you zagged, and so everybody else starts to zag, and so you zig again. Like to your point, like we we zigged our way into the early 2000s, right? And we built this brand, and we built this image, and there was that moment of transition, and we became fast, and we became lightning and Chip Kelly, and like you know you know certain guys going up to Seattle and running for 300 yards in a game, like like this, like those things didn't happen before, right? And now we have become this national brand that is knocking on the door and moving into a conference of history, moving into a conference of I mean, Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State and Wisconsin, and like this, we're here. Like
Yeah.
this is big boy football, right? So there is a little bit of similarity in terms of like taking that next step forward, but we still did it with a giant five-story inflatable rubber duck in the river, like
Yeah.
So that's what I love about Oregon. And that's what I love about our brand, and more specifically our family, right? Because
Hmm.
that's what it is to me, is like there's, and I've said it before, like, and been criticized for it. There's something different about Oregon. There really is. There's something different about the Oregon football program. Like you go to Alabama, and you know great, like you're part of this tradition. You go to Ohio State, you go to Michigan, you go to all these blue blood powerhouses, and those guys would see each other in the NFL, and you say hey after the games. But when you go to Oregon, and when you come through Oregon in the last 20 years, there's something more personal, because you know that you've helped build something.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know that you've been part of something unique. You know that you've had to fight. Let's be honest, we've had to fight more for relevance than any Ohio State team in the last 30 years. Right? That doesn't mean that Ohio State players don't like each other more than we do, but there is a connection, there is an understanding.
It's almost kind of like an understanding of, we people connect more on struggle. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So like the struggles of being noticed, the struggles of being relevant.
Hmm.
Um, like I totally agree, because and also too, knowing that people envy you because
Yeah.
of
Isn't that the
whatever
isn't
reason.
that the ironic part? Like they envy you on one hand, yet on the other hand, they don't want to recognize what it is that you've done to get to this point of envy, right? They don't want to
Yeah.
give you credit. Well, yeah, you won 4 Pac-12 championships, during this stretch, but you haven't won the national championship yet, right?
Right.
There's this juxtaposition of having to put yourself out there and be willing to fail. That billboard in Times Square, that could have it ended up being one of the biggest Heisman campaigns of all time, but it could have literally been the most giant flop in college football history. Had we gone 8-4 instead of 11-1, like people would have been saying, "Man, that's so dumb. You're so arrogant. Like you don't deserve to be here."
Hmm.
We have had to fight for visibility, fight for relevance, and we're still fighting, right? But we're part of the group now, right? And so
Yeah.
there's this connection, whether it's players, coaches, like, and part of it too is like that family of coaches that helped us get there. Like this is, and we're going off on a different topic, but I love how Dan Lanning has embraced that family atmosphere, that family feeling, yet also taken a step forward and realized this is what we need to do in order to get to that place that all of us wanted to be to begin with. Like, so yeah, there's pride. You asked about being from Oregon and seeing the transition from Heisman to relevance, from relevance to the Big Ten. Like, the best way for me to describe it is it's personal, right? It's family. It's what I grew up with. It's the neighborhood. It's literally people like the recruits that came in, from Southern California, and oh, I hate this place. Like, oh man, I can't wait to go home during their first winter. And then by the end of their 5th year, it's like, yeah, I'm just going to buy a place down the street in Springfield, and I'm going to work. I'm going to
Yeah.
work and raise my kids here. Like, there's something that just gets inside of you, and I love that.
Yeah. Well said, man.
This episode is brought to you by Emerald Valley Golf Course. Located just south of Eugene along the coast fork of the Willamette River, Emerald Valley is one of the premier championship public golf courses in the Willamette Valley. Emerald Valley is also the proud home of the men's and women's Oregon Ducks golf teams, where the Peter and Jan Jacobson Oregon Golf Teaching Facility is located. I've personally toured the facility, and I have to say it has got to be one of the nicest golf buildings in the nation. Listeners of this podcast will know that Emerald Valley is my home for golf and my absolute favorite place to play. Book your tee time now at emeraldvalleygolf.com. So you mentioned real quickly back, that was a great conversation about leading up to that, kind of the love for Oregon through that. But you mentioned how this is something I've always wondered, how that billboard, it could have been a massive flop. It's nice that, I mean, fans will say, yeah, oh, it's lucky they went 11-1. It's not lucky. It's just, good foresight on you guys that, hey, you knew you were going to be really good this year. And so they kind of took advantage of that. I'm curious, one thing that Oregon has seen massive blowback from, and Jay Stu and I have felt it because we've kind of been a part of the conversation, is this new documentary that they've had with that team out west, where a lot of people are saying, wow, that's very bold, calling themselves that team out west. Yes, it's bold, and if they don't have the season that they think they're going to have, it can look incredibly stupid. But I think that they have that same type of foresight that they know they're going to be one of those teams this year that are fighting for a national championship. What was your kind of thought and your idea of it all when you saw that documentary came out? You saw that name, you kind of see how they're inserting themselves into this Big Ten rivalry world.
You want my honest answer?
I would love it.
I didn't know about the documentary till a couple weeks ago.
Really?
I didn't.
Okay.
And I kind of checked it out. I was like, oh, I like this.
Uh-huh.
Because like I don't think it's as big of a step as you make it out to be. I
Okay.
really don't. Or maybe, I don't know how your interactions have gone with other people, but like
Not well.
is it really that different from Oklahoma State putting QR codes on the back of their helmets? Like, like we are in this world of college football, which is inherently different than what it was 20 years ago. It is.
Mhm.
And if you can't recognize that, then, like you can't be part of this conversation, because we don't live in the world of college football, of amateur athletics, in, idyllic, student athletes, gone, done, never coming back.
Mhm.
This world is based around eyeballs and clicks and dollars and NIL, and we have to figure out how to get that under control, right? But that is the world that we live in. What they're doing right now for Oregon is no different than Hard Knocks. It's not.
Yeah.
It is no different. You're going to criticize the Bengals, Cowboys, Jets, whoever it was, for doing Hard Knocks? No, you're not. Like, that is the world of college football. And yes, it's not being run by a governing body. The NFL, has a say, but that's part of what needs to be fixed. Is figuring out some sort of, this is minor league football. This is, well, and in a lot of cases, it's not even, guys in college football are getting paid more than some of the guys in the NFL. Like, so this is professional football that needs to be governed in a way similar to the NFL. And until it is, hey, do your thing. Like,
Mhm.
put a QR code on the back of your helmet. Make a Hard Knocks documentary about the team out west. That, frankly, like we talked about, we are still it's this juxtaposition of, like, we have envy, but at the same time we have hate and disrespect.
Mhm.
You know, oh man, I really wish we were like that in some ways, but you don't belong here. How dare you do it? Oh, well,
Mhm.
you won a few games. Well, you haven't won a national championship. Oh, like, there's this back and forth, and it's almost a hypocrisy of both sides of your mouth. Love and hate for Oregon.
Yeah.
And frankly, that just kind of means to me that we're doing the right things.
Yeah. They're being talked about, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Lastly, let's shift gears to Dillon Gabriel. You watched the spring game. We've seen him play for, 5 seasons already. It's kind of like you were saying with Bo Nix earlier. The guy's basically, 35, 36 years old already. Do you feel like you have a good sense of what to expect from him in Oregon's offense this year?
Somebody asked me this question the other day, and their point was, how do you not know what you're going to get from Dillon Gabriel? It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, he was literally, like you said, you and Jay Stewart were talking about the other day, like, with an above average season for him, he will break the all-time touchdown passing record in the history of college football, right?
Mhm.
That being said, anytime you have a new starting quarterback, I'm nervous. Like, I
Really?
am. Like,
Okay.
that's just a me thing, right? It's nothing
Mhm.
against Dillon. I think he's a phenomenal player. He's probably an even better person. And the person I was talking with said, "Well, when will you become comfortable?" I said, "Give me 2 games.
Okay.
One
Yeah.
game out of the gates, like, anybody can do that. Once he starts, hits halftime in the second game, then it's like, all right, good, I'm done. Like, that nervousness is quelled." But yes, is Dillon Gabriel going to have a phenomenal season? Yes. Is he an incredibly talented quarterback? Yes. Could he take us to a place that this program has never been? Yes. Am I still somewhat nervous because we have a new starting quarterback this year? Yeah, I am.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think what you have to do is, I'm not saying to you in particular, but the Oregon, because I share some of that nervousness too, because it's unknown. But
Yeah.
the reliability of the offense as a whole, and the scheme that Will Stein has in there, and the scheme that carried over from Kenny Dillingham to Will Stein, and the fact that there is so many similarities there, and there's so many similarities between Bo Nix and Dillon Gabriel too. I think, at least for me, that's what gives me comfort when watching this, that you think that enough of a holdover is there that they should be able to find the same ceiling that they had last year.
100%. And honestly, the talent is going to be even better this year. Like, the
Yeah.
talent around Dillon is through the roof. We've never seen an Oregon football team, offensively or defensively, this talented. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, we haven't. Like, and that's the credit to Dan Lanning and Tosh and that whole coaching staff on the way that they have seen the evolution of, seen the direction of college football is going, and saying, hey, we need to be on the forefront of that. They've nailed it.
Mhm.
So yeah, all those things put together, feel the exact same way. There's no reason why they shouldn't.
Yeah.
But still, we still
Still got
haven't
to do
seen
it.
we
Still
still
got to do
haven't
it.
seen Dillon, take a snap in an Oregon uniform against somebody else. So
That's very true.
we'll get
I'm
there.
I'm curious to get your final take on this. Jay Stu is the optimist slash dreamer of the group. He's predicting an undefeated season and a championship for the Ducks. I consider myself a bit more of a realist. You could call me a pessimist if you want to. I think they go, 12-1. Yeah, that's my realism. 12-1, probably lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. I just think that it's tough to beat Ohio State twice when you're 1-9 against them in your career. I still think they make it to a college football playoff. What is your sense for this season? Do you have any overall predictions for what you expect to see this year?
My expectation is that Oregon is, and this is, I would say, just mine. Like, Oregon is one of, pick a number, 6 to 8 teams that realistically have an opportunity to win the college football national championship. I mean, that is the state of college football now. Is there are the haves and the have-nots, and Oregon is one of the haves. So whether it's 12-0 or 10-2, however you get into that playoff, which I don't know how the whole playoff is going to play out, but I do know that, give me five, say, hey, give me 5 teams that have a shot to win it, and I'm putting Oregon in that group. For a whole host of reasons, I think they could very well be, one of the 2 or 3 favorites. Now, as we've seen with Marcus's team, as we've seen with, with Mike and, against Michael Dyer, sometimes you just need a bounce. Right. Sometimes it's an inch. It's a knee that touches or doesn't touch. It's a ball that bounces left instead of right. Those are the things that determine whether or not you simply make it to the championship game or you walk away holding the trophy. So I'm in agreement that this is as good a team, an Oregon team that we've seen, is as talented, as well coached. And I think like any team, sometimes you're just going to need the ball to bounce the right way at the right time to get it over the finish line.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Joey, thank you so much for coming on. I didn't mention it recording with you, but this is actually our 100th episode of the podcast ever. You were the first major guest on the podcast, episode 9. So it feels right to have you back on for episode 100. So thank you very much for joining. I know, wasn't that crazy? That was a couple years ago.
What happened in the first 8? Come on now, Zach.
Hey, you were a big name. We had to work up to you.
Something like that.
You've got Talking Ducks coming back soon. Can you just let me know when and where people can find you guys?
Yeah, we got our YouTube channel for Talking Ducks. It's just crushing it. Jordan Kent running the show, getting everything out there. And we're on Root Sports Northwest on Thursdays at 3 p.m. I think. We got to work out the timing, and then replay during the weekend. So yeah, we got a couple places to find us, but same crew, the same Anthony Newman, Jordan Kent, myself, and then the evil villain Aaron Fentress. So
Mr. Fentress always there, playing devil's advocate to everything you say.
Oh, I love that guy.
He's great. All right, well, thank you again for coming on, Joey. Appreciate it. We'll hopefully talk to you again soon.
All right, anytime, buddy.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for tuning in. Again, go subscribe to the show, rate, review, all that stuff. Help us grow our audience, please. We have done it. We are officially at game week. Next Saturday, August 31st, the Oregon Ducks open up their 2024 season against Idaho. So game week, that means that Jay Stu and I are going to our game week schedule. We will plan to record. I think our recording is on Tuesday evening, Tuesday night. So that podcast will be out on Wednesday, giving you a preview of the game to come, kind of where things are at after fall camp. And then we'll plan to go live after the game sometime on Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. We're going to go live. I believe it'll be on Twitter or on X, and then that podcast will go out on either Saturday night or Sunday morning. It'll be a shorter one, probably around 15, 20, 25 minutes, just to kind of give our instant reactions to the game. And then again, we'll go the next Tuesday night, record our major takeaways from the game and a preview of the next game. And that will kind of be our set schedule throughout the season. So from here on out, 2 times a week until the end of the year should be a lot of fun. You can check out more of my work at duckswire.usatoday.com. Follow me at Zachary C. Neel on Twitter. Follow Jay Stu on Twitter at JonathanStuR1. Make sure to check out the Believe in Panthers podcast and the Stu and Crew podcast. For myself, Zach Neel, for my co-host Jonathan Stewart, we'll talk to you guys next week. Until then, take it easy.